in the quiet village of Dala in Kano State, Nigeria. Tradition ran deeply, shaping the lives of everyone who lived there. In those days, marriage wasn't just a union between two people. It was a binding agreement between families, carefully planned and meticulously executed. Ahmed Bawa and Amina Sani was two children caught in the middle of such a tradition, although they had no idea what was happening. Ahmed was just 9 years old when his parents made a life-altering decision for him. Without his knowledge, they chose Amina, a girl 3 years younger than him, as his future wife. They even paid the bride price, sealing the agreement in secret. Amina, only 6 at this time, was equally unaware that her future had already been decided. She often visited Ahmed's house, playing innocent games and going to school with him, never suspecting the truth. The families kept their secrets well. They whispered behind closed doors, discussing every details of the arrangements. In their mind, they were ensuring a strong and lasting marriage by choosing partners who were compatible and came from a good families. They believed that by carefully choosing a partner and thoroughly investigating the other family, they could avoid heartbreak and instability that often plague marriages. Ahmed and Amina were just children. They played together, laughed together, and grew up side by side, oblivious to the fact that their futures were already intertwined. The elders watched them closely, satisfied with their decision, but the children remained unaware. As the years passed, Ahmed began to notice that Amina was spending more time at his house. She would stay for days at a time, joining in family meals and even helping his mothers with household chores. He found it odd but didn't question it. Amina, for her part, was curious but assumed this was just how things were. The day finally came when their parents could keep the secret no longer. The village buzzed with excitement and curiosity as the elders announced the marriage. Ahmed and Amina were confused and scared. How could they be married? They were just kids. They didn't understand the weight of the decision that had been made for them. The day of the wedding arrived, and the villagers gathered to celebrate. The atmosphere was festive, with colorful decoration, music and food, but Amina and Ahmed felt like they were living in a dream, unsure of what was happening around them. As the ceremony began, Ahmed's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at Amina, who was dressed in a traditional attire, but she was just a child like him. The elders recited the marriage vows, and before Ahmed knew it, they were husband and wife. The weight of the moment hit them both. What did it mean to be married? They were too young to understand the responsibilities that came with it. All they knew was that their lives had changed forever, and they were no longer going back. In the days that followed, the reality of their situation began to sink in. Ahmed and Amina were no longer just friends. They were now a married couple, expected to live together and share their lives. But how could they do that when they didn't even know what marriage was? Their parents, pleased with the arrangements, encouraged them to spend more time together. They sent Amina to Ahmed's house, where she would stay for days at a time. The children played like they always had, but there was a tension between them now, an unspoken understanding that things were different. Amina missed her home, but she didn't know how to express it. Ahmed felt the strain of their new relationship. They were just children, trusting into the world of adult responsibilities, and it was overwhelming. The once carefree days of their childhood was gone, replaced by the unseen burden that neither of them could fully comprehend. One evening, as they sat together under the stars, Ahmed finally spoke up. "Amina, do you ever feel like this isn't what we wanted? Like we are just playing a game?" Amina looked at him, her eyes widened with confusion. "I don't know, Ahmed. I don't understand any of this. I miss being at home, but now it feels like we are stuck." Their world hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their situation. They were bounded by tradition, by the choices their families had made for them, and there was no escape. But deep down, they both knew that something wasn't right. As Ahmed and Amina grew older, the confusion and uncertainty about their marriage only deepened. They continued to live under the same roof, but the pressure of their situation began to take its toll. The playful bond they once shared had turned into something more complicated, filled with misunderstanding and unspoken tension. Ahmed, now a teenager, began to feel the weight of his responsibilities. He knew he was supposed to be a husband, but what did that really mean? His friends were out enjoying their youth, while he was bound to a marriage he hadn't chosen. The expectation placed on him by his family and the community felt like a heavy chain around his neck. Amina too was struggling. She had grown up with Ahmed, and though she cared for him, the idea of being his wife still felt strange. She longed for the carefree days of her childhood, but they were gone, replaced by the reality of their situation. She was supposed to be a good wife, but how could she, when she still felt like a child herself? The strain between them began to show. Small disagreements turned into arguments, and the tension between them grew. They didn't know how to communicate their feelings, so they kept them bottled up, leading to more misunderstanding between them. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Ahmed stormed out of the house, leaving Amina in tears. He wandered through the village, his mind racing with thoughts of escape. How could he continue in a marriage that made him so unhappy? He didn't want to hurt Amina, but he couldn't deny that he was miserable. As he walked, he found himself at the edge of the village, where an old man sat under a tree. The man was known for his wisdom, and Ahmed, desperate for guidance, approached him. The old man looked up as Ahmed came near and motioned for him to sit. "What troubles you, young one?" the man said, his voice gentle and calm. Ahmed hesitated, then poured out his heart, telling the old man about the marriage, the pressure and the growing distance between him and Amina. The old man listened quietly, nodding as Ahmed spoke, his eyes filled with understanding. When Ahmed finished, the old man remained silent for a moment, then spoke. "You and Amina were born together by tradition, but tradition alone cannot sustain a marriage. You are both still young, still learning what it means to be together. But you must understand this. Marriage is not just about duty or obligation. It is about love, trust and understanding." The old man's word hit Ahmed like a bolt of lightning. He had been so focused on the pressure of being a husband that he had forgotten the most important part, caring for Amina as a person, not just as a wife. He realized that he had been so caught up in his own fears and frustration that he hadn't considered how Amina might be feeling. With this newfound clarity, Ahmed returned home. He found Amina sitting by the window, her eyes red from crying. He hesitated, then sat down beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ahmed took a deep breath. "Amina," he began, his voice trembling slightly. I am so sorry. I have been so caught up in what I thought I was supposed to do that I forgot what really matters. I want us to work together, to understand each other. I don't want us to be like this anymore. Amina looked at him. Her expression softened. I am sorry too, she whispered. I have been scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I want us to be happy, Ahmed. I want us to make this work. It was a small step, but it was a beginning. For the first time in a long while, they spoke openly and honestly, sharing their fears, hopes and dreams. It wasn't easy, but they both knew it was necessary. As time passed, Ahmed and Amina grew closer. They no longer saw their marriage as a burden, but as a partnership. One evening, as they sat under the stars, Ahmed spoke about his dreams. Amina, I have been thinking about our future. I want us to build something together, a life where we can be proud of what we have accomplished, both as an individual or as a couple. Amina smiled, appreciating the thoughtfulness in Ahmed's word. I want that too, Ahmed. I want us to be a team, to support each other no matter what. Like, their conversation became more meaningful as they planned their future. They discussed sharing a small business, perhaps a shop that would serve the need of their community. Amina had a talent for sewing, and Ahmed was good with numbers. They decided that together they could make something out of their talents, contributing not only to their household but also to the village. However, just as they began laying the groundwork of their new venture, an unexpected visitor arrived in the village. His name was Musa, a young man with a sharp features and a charming demeanor. He was a distant relative of one of the elders and had come to Dala to learn about his roots. Musa quickly became a popular figure in the village, admired for his intelligence and charisma. But for Ahmed and Amina, his presence brought a subtle but undeniable tension. Musa often visited their home, offering to help with their business plan and sharing stories of his travels. His interest in Amina was particularly noticeable, and though she dismissed it as a mere friendliness, Ahmed couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. As Musa spent time with them, Ahmed's insecurities began to surface. He wondered if Amina was impressed by Musa's confidence and worldly knowledge. Musa's compliments, though innocent enough, seemed to linger in the air, creating an invisible rift between Ahmed and Amina. One day, Musa suggested a business idea that involved Amina traveling to a nearby city to buy materials. You have such a talent for sewing, Amina. Imagine the qualities of fabrics you could bring back from the city. It would elevate your work to another level, he said, his eyes glimmering with excitement. Amina was intrigued by the idea, but Ahmed was hesitant. The thought of Amina leaving the village, even for a short trip, filled him with dread. I am not sure it's a good idea, Amina, he said, trying to hide his discomfort. What if something goes wrong? Musa laughed, waving off Ahmed's concern. Don't worry, Ahmed. I have connections in the city. I can arrange everything. Amina will be safe, and the trip will be worth it. Trust me, Ahmed. Amina, sensing Ahmed's unease, decided to discuss with him in private. That evening, they sat together in the small home, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken words. Ahmed, Amina began gently. I know you are worried, but I think this could be a great opportunity for us. We have been working so hard, and this could be the next step we need. Ahmed struggled with his feeling. On the other hand, he wanted to support Amina's ambition. On the other hand, he couldn't shake off the fear that Musa's influence might lead to something more. I trust you, Amina, he said finally, his voice lowered. But I don't trust him. There is something about Musa. I don't know, I just don't like him. Amina reached out and took his hand. I understand, Ahmed, but you have to believe in us, in what we have. No one can come in between us unless we let them. Her word reassured Ahmed, but the tension remained. He knew that this was a test for their trust, a challenge they had to face together. The next morning, Amina decided to go on the trip, but with a compromise. She would take her younger brother Idris along for protection and company. Ahmed, though still uneasy, agreed. Be careful, Amina, he said, his voice filled with concern. Many days later, Ahmed waited for Amina's return. Musa continued to visit, asking casually about Amina's progress. Each time, Ahmed's resentment grew. He couldn't shake off the feeling that Musa's interest in their life was more than just a friendly concern. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Amina returned. She brought with her beautiful fabrics, and her face was filled with excitement. Ahmed, look at this, oh, she exclaimed, spreading the materials out for him to see. They are even better than I imagined. But Ahmed barely glanced at the material. All he could see was Amina's radiant smile, the joy in her eyes, and he realized how much he had missed her. I am glad you are home, Amina, he said softly, pulling her into an embrace. I was worried about you. Amina laughed, a light sound that eased the tension in Ahmed's heart. You don't have to worry, Ahmed. I am here, and I am not going anywhere. Meanwhile, Musa's visits became less frequent after that. Perhaps he sensed that his presence was no longer welcome, or he had simply achieved what he came to the village for. Whatever the reason, his departure brought a sense of relief to Ahmed and Amina. They focused on their business, which began to thrive, thanks to the high-quality materials Amina had brought back. The experience with Musa, though unsettling, had brought Ahmed and Amina closer. They had faced a challenge that could have torn them apart, but instead, it strengthened their bond. They learned that trust wasn't just believing in each other's intention, but also about facing their fears together. Years passed, and Amina and Ahmed's small business grew into a well-known establishment in the village. They were no longer the young, uncertain couple who had been trusted into marriage by tradition. They had built a life together, filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. Their journey hadn't been easy. They had faced numerous challenges, both from within and outside their marriage, but each challenge had taught them something valuable, something that had helped them grow, both as individuals and as a couple. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset, Amina turned to Ahmed and smiled. We have come a long way, haven't we? Ahmed nodded, his eyes reflecting the warm hues of the setting sun. Yes, we have, and I wouldn't change a thing. Everything we have been through has made us who we are today. Amina leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the comfort of his presence. I am glad we faced those challenges together. They made us stronger and more resilient. As the sun deepened below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, Ahmed and Amina knew that their journey was far from over. They had built a strong foundation, but there was still so much to learn, so much to experience. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other, and that was enough. They were ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that they could overcome any obstacle as long as they stood side by side. The story of Ahmed and Amina was one of love, trust, and perseverance. It was a reminder that while tradition and custom may shape the beginning of a marriage, it is the bond between the couples that determined its strength and longevity. Ahmed took Amina's hand and he said softly, "We are a team, Amina, and as long as we have each other, nothing can break us." And with that, they lived happily ever after, building a marriage that had weathered the storm and come out stronger on the other side. In conclusion, Amina and Ahmed's story is a testament to the power of trust, communication, and unwavering support. Their marriage, which began as a simple arrangement, grew into a deep and abiding love. It is a reminder that the most important part of any relationship is the willingness to face challenges together with patience, understanding, and a commitment to make it work. As the years went by, they continued to build on the foundation they had laid, always striving to understand each other better and to nurture the bond that had brought them together as children and sustain them as adults. Their story serves as an inspiration not just to the people of Dala, but to anyone who believes in the power of love and the strength of a committed partnership. If you learned anything from this story, I would like you to drop a comment, and do not forget to like and share this story to your family and loved ones. See you in the next story. Bye.